For Alabama, I have good news and I have bad news as it pertains to the rest of the college football season and what you have in front of you right now, because I know what you're thinking. Gosh dang, we got issues. We got problems in-house. How do we just take an L to Tennessee? We're used to just running that side of the deal. We always win the third Saturday in October. What is going on? Because it doesn't feel very Saban-like right now. When you look at this team, that's the best description I think you can put to it. It is an un-Saban-like program as of today. It doesn't have to stay that way, but that's the way it is today. That's the bad news. You're very far from the standard that is set before you. Nick Saban is the greatest of all time. I want to make that extremely clear. Looking in this camera lens from me down here at this desk to you, the viewer, watching on your laptop, your iPhone, whether you're listening to some other form or fashion, Nick Saban is the greatest coach of all time. He set a standard before this program they are not right now achieving. And it's a lot of things that, like I said, we're not used to seeing from Bama. Penalties. They had over 100 yards of penalties against Tennessee on Saturday. Are you joking? I mean, I do not envy anybody in that locker room in Tuscaloosa from what they have to endure at practice this coming week. It will not be fun. Typically, coaches have some sort of punishment for penalties and for a missed assignment or whatever it is, mental errors, unforced errors. There will be a lot of payment made today in Tuscaloosa for those issues. Undisciplined. That's kind of the feel right now. On top of that, there are units within this program that are looking lackluster that we're just not used to seeing from Nick Saban coached football teams. We'll start with the secondary. How many times were they out of position or beat or busted coverage or just grabbing at a receiver when the ball's in the air, not turning around to try to play the football in the air? Now, defensive back, in my opinion, is the second hardest position on the field behind quarterback. You have to run backwards, get in phase with another fast dude, and find a way to make sure that ball does not get caught. That's very difficult. Alabama, their MO over the last few years has been having dogs in the secondary. Nick Saban, that's a piece of his football team that in a lot of ways he takes pride in. He helps coach the DBs. That's important to him. Those are his babies. We're not used to seeing this kind of performance from them. Hendon Hooker making a bid for the Heisman Trophy based on that game. He lit them up. You had one receiver have 6 catches, 5 touchdowns. That's not how they get down to Alabama. We're not used to seeing that. I don't think it's a lack of talent, but I do think it is an issue right now, and a lot of that might be experience. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but you got issues at Alabama in this secondary. Second piece I want to reference. It is not quite as noticeable from a stat sheet perspective when you look at Alabama. When you turn on the tape and look at this offensive line, I don't recognize that as a Nick Saban offensive line either. They are solid in the run game. In pass protection, they have issues. How many times do we see Bryce Young either running for his life and scrambling and improvising? Some of that is stuff that he just does to extend plays, so kind of take that with a grain of salt. But how many times do we see him just get walloped? I know you're probably upset about targeting, this, that, and the other. Put that to the side. Just look at the hit itself or how many hits he's having to take during the course of that football game on Saturday. We're not used to seeing that from Alabama. We're used to seeing solid protection, good pass pro, everyone's organized, quarterback's got time to throw. And again, I understand Bryce Young does a lot with his legs. He doesn't do that much with his legs to take punishment the way he did on Saturday. Got to get that figured out. I know Bryce Young's involved with setting protections. There's got to be something figured out because there's something to be said for how much Tennessee was blitzing at the end of that game. They were blitzing at the end of the game where Alabama's in an empty set with no running backs back there to help protect because they feel like they can get there. They felt like that risk was worth the reward, ended up paying dividends for them. Those two units were not used to seeing having issues at Alabama. I'm J.D. Piquel. This is the Hard Count. Thank you so much for joining us. Nick Brake does heavy lifting. Subscribe to the channel and help us do more of what you want to see. Appreciate you in advance. So let's get to the good news. And there's a lot of it for Alabama. Your loss to Tennessee is very much not fatal. Nick Saban said in his press conference, I'll say it again right here, everything you want to accomplish as a program is still very much in front of you. Take a look at the schedule they got left. Got Mississippi State, which will be a little bit tricky based on what they like to do with the air raid offense. And like we just mentioned, the issues that are there in the secondary right now. Got a bye week. Then you go to LSU in Death Valley. Not a gimme. Go to Ole Miss. Then you play Austin Peay. And you play Auburn. All those games are extremely winnable. I would be surprised if Alabama is not favored in all of those games. So there's that piece of it working for you. All the issues are fixable for Alabama. Like I was just saying, the things on the offensive line and the secondary, it's not a matter of personnel. It's not a matter of talent. At Alabama, you have the creme de la creme when it comes to getting guys in your program that can play ball. Whether it's portal, whether it's recruiting, you got guys, and they're at Alabama. You got to put it together. If I'm an artist and I'm painting a picture, it's not a matter of what paint I have right now at Alabama. It's not like I don't have the right shades of the proper colors that I'm looking for to put this thing together and make a beautiful picture. That's not the issue. It's the technique. It's the things that happen when I'm painting this whole deal, when I'm putting that green there for the grass or I'm putting the blue there for the water. It's the application of that that's not working in your favor right now. Because you have a whole lot of guys with a lot of stars next to their name in Tuscaloosa right now, all working for the same common goal and common purpose, but you got to figure out how to apply that correctly. You look at penalties. That's fixable, very fixable. I mean, I'm telling you, they're fixing that today as we speak in Tuscaloosa, whether it's through conditioning and sort of putting a mental block there with, hey, I don't want to run more gassers, so I'm not going to hold a little bit longer on this play, or whatever it may be. But those are things that you can fix in practice. That's not a talent perspective. That's not anything that you have to do from a matter of something that would be physically impossible, if that makes sense. You're not asking to do anything that you're not already capable of doing. Jumping off sides. You can listen to the snap count. I understand it's loud. You can listen to that. You can be a little bit more disciplined. Fixable. Look at the secondary. Look at the offensive line. They got guys. Maybe you have to recalibrate how you prepare in practice. Maybe you recalibrate the game plan to put those guys in position to succeed. But as a whole, there is nothing within this program that is going to keep them from accomplishing their goals that's not in-house. It's very much a self-inflicted number of wounds that Alabama is allowing to happen right now. Now, inexperience is probably a variable of that on the secondary level, but there's still a lot of guys that can play ball. Now, here's the other good news. You got some equalizers. Like Nick Saban, the greatest coach of all time, but on the field, you got some equalizers. One of those equalizers' name is Jahmyr Gibbs. The running game itself, what he's done in the month of October, has been ridiculous. Since they have upped his volume of carries, he's been eating over 100 yards in every game so far this month. When he gets 15 or more carries, he's having a game. Also, he's a problem in the pass game. You want to put him out in the slot, he's one of your best receivers. That's very rare. To have a talent like that at the running back position, you can play that flexible, is very rare. He's an offensive weapon. He will never have a quiet game, in my opinion, going forward. If he gets the right amount of volume in terms of touches, he will hurt the opposition. Just the way it goes. Also, you have, for a lot of people's money, the best, if not one of the best quarterbacks in the country, in Bryce Young. And you saw that. Won the game against Texas for you. Put on that Superman cape, did what he wanted to do. He won that game in Austin. He very nearly did that same thing against Tennessee. Had a superhuman day coming off an injury. So you have guys that are going to be a little bit of a dry eraser for you. Like, yes, you're figuring out the offensive line. Doesn't matter. Bryce Young can scramble and make things happen. Hey, we're giving up too many big plays in the pass game. Hey, we're giving up too many points on defense because of our secondary's inexperience. Well, Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to push the tempo and score more points to keep us in it. The way it goes. You got equalizers. Now, you don't want to lean on those all the way to the finish, but if you can get some of those things remedied that are very capable of being remedied within those units that have issues, you got the guys, you got the horses to make some good things happen. We picked Alabama before the year started to win the national championship. They didn't look like a national championship team on Saturday, but you better believe it's still under the hood down there in Tuscaloosa. So we'll see how they respond. But I'm Jody Piquel. Nick Brake does the heavy lifting. This has been The Hard Count, and we appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram to stay with every single thing that we're doing here. We want you all a part of it. We're live on Tuesday and Thursday at 3 Central, 4 Eastern. Open up the live chat. Involve y'all in the show. It's an absolute blast. We're going to run it up. We're going to have a good time. So we will see y'all there. So until then, we're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.